Feature in a Short.
Hello and welcome to Feature in a Short. This is Justin Joseph Hall, owner of Fourwind Films, and today we're going to have a special kind of podcast because we wore masks during the entire screening for the safety of all. This is a documentary-style film discussion that features short and long-form movie storytelling. In the second screening here since COVID lockdown. As an appointed contributor, this week we have Megan Masur, who is an incredible utility person to have on set in many jobs. She's a Steadicam op, she's done grip work, gaffer, assistant camera operator, pretty much anything you can think on the technical side of set. She also used to work in animation. But tonight we're going to feature her cinematography work for a short film she shot called We're All Right. Before the short film, Megan gave us a little intro.
I actually found the group of people that I worked with through one of the women's Facebook groups, and I read the script and immediately fell in love with it. I was like, I have to shoot this. And got to talk to Stephanie Galler, who wrote it, and her friend Stephanie Salgado both were acting in it, and immediately talking with them made me feel like I was like part of a team that I really knew I needed to be a part of.
Yeah.
So I think we just found a really good group of people to bring together to tell this story, and it was important to me because it deals with like depression and how to talk about it, which is a big topic that isn't talked about, and I wanted to find a way to portray that, and I really liked the way Steph wrote it, that it was like kind of joking about it but then being serious and like going back and forth a bunch. So we all like hung out overnight for about a week shooting this short, and we had an amazing crew, and I'm really excited with how it came out.
During the film, we delivered cookies to our guests to take home. After watching the film, we had a short discussion.
So I had an interview on a phone call with Steph, looking for a cinematographer for a short. Steph was the writer and the actress and the producer, and this is her baby. And Katrina and Madeline, our director, just them explaining what the story was and why they thought it was important and what they wanted creatively. And working with Madeline was great. Like very early on, she had like very clear ideas of like how she saw this story looking. So it was pretty easy to collaborate in terms of working with her as a director.
I mean, you had like a nice soft light coming from outside the balcony.
Yeah, well,
on their face on the outside. So how did you do that? Like
this movie was like a challenge for lighting because our locations changed constantly, and it took a while to lock down things. Even just finding that fire escape, we went through like 3 different ones. None of them were really. Most fire escapes are way narrower than you imagine. Like you stand on, and you're like, oh, it's so wide, and then you try to put a camera and crew and lights and a sound person and actors, and it's really narrow. So we tried to find the largest one we could find.
That seems.
And we got lucky because also sound would be a big issue with fire escapes. So we got lucky that this one was sort of on the interior of a building where it had another building right alongside of it. So I put up 2 quasar crossfades, which are battery powered. I rigged them to the staircase of the fire escape. And that was really the only light, other than I used a big 1K inside in the bedroom as like light coming from the window. Okay. And then I pushed them to put like those twinkle lights, because I was like, we just need something.
Touch.
Yeah. So we put a bunch of those up. I used a lot of twinkle lights. And it worked out. I hadn't really done stuff where I didn't have as much control over the light, or really space to light. And then the last scene actually got changed. It was supposed to be on a rooftop. And so I had planned a bunch of stuff for a rooftop scene with battery powered lights. We ended up switching it to the top of the staircase. That screaming scene, we literally got kicked off of that rooftop. pretty soon after we shot that part. So,
By who?
like the security guard of the building.
But they were actually screaming too, right? So
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to
yeah.
not pay attention to yourself.
Yeah.
Credit to Katrina, our producer. She was just like, okay, and now what do we do? Like, now let's go find another location and let's figure it out, or maybe let's push. Like, she was like constantly moving things. And Quinn, our first AD, they were both like working together on that, constantly trying to figure out what we were doing at what time. So.
And then you mentioned too, I like that look at the blue.
So that was a Kino through. There was like a skylight over that staircase, and so Simone was my gaffer, and she put a Kino through that light. It was like a big floor bank tubed light. So we had that with diffusion. It was all daylight tubes because I wanted it to be moonlight, but I kind of forgot about the fact that that staircase had tungsten lights in like sconces, I guess you call them, where they're like physically connected to the wall and you can't even like get in. Because we actually tried to change the bulbs in those sconces and we couldn't even get in. It was like locked in a cage sort of thing. So it's a lot of that, like, thinking you're gonna do. Like I had a whole binder of like my lighting plan for each scene because we had done a bunch of pre-production and I'd scouted all the locations, which was super nice, but then things changed on the day. So like they rewrote the ending from the original script because of our location issues. So I do like that it's not so in your face now.
What camera?
I shot on an A7S, so the camera wasn't that heavy. So I could use a lot of smaller things,
Yeah.
And this was actually before I even owned an A7S, and then I went out and bought one pretty much right after this shoot because I was like, this is the camera I need to have because it's affordable and
versatile
and can do everything basically.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it has its limits. It can't be an Alexa, but it really works well for low light, and which this needed.
Yeah, exactly.
I shot the sunrise where they're screaming at like, I don't even know, like 20,000 ISO, like really insane.
Yeah, it's for way lower light, so it's like for shooting in the dark.
Well, I mean, it also shoots 4K, and like we had talked about that because it's sort of important for film festivals these days. So everything has to be like future-proof, as Netflix has shown us. So.
How many pages was the script?
13, I think.
And where did you guys play?
It premiered at the New York Short Film Festival.
For her feature, Megan brought the independent film Short Term 12, also focusing on mental health and the care for mental health.
Short Term 12 is one of my favorite features. Similarly to We're All Alright, it talks about mental health and really focuses on issues that I don't think are talked about a lot in films, and that it shows what foster care and long-term care looks like and what that system is, which I really had no idea, right? So I think they do a really good job of that.
During the film, we served takeaway dishes for red velvet cake, vegetables, and tortilla chips. And as the credits played, we had a casual discussion about the feature.
Sorry about you, is the like weird one where it gets like really crazy at the end, right?
That's one way to put it.
I like don't even know how to explain it. I'm like, it's just, I mean, I loved it. I actually really, really love that movie.
I hated
It's
it
like,
when it came
when
to
people
her,
ask
I was like,
me,
that was
I'm like,
dumb.
That's my favorite movie.
I'm
I'm not even joking. It's
Really?
my favorite movie.
I loved it. I literally walked out of the theater and was like, this is so good. And then I like went back and saw it again and saw it again, which I don't really do. Like, I don't normally see movies more than once. So.
That's how I found out about this movie, because I loved it so much and I wanted to like see everything that like Keith Stanfield was.
Have you seen Atlanta?
So that's how I found out about this.
Oh, okay. I was like, we've got to. Because that's my favorite. He's my favorite in that. I mean, all three are amazing, but I mean.
Yeah, his character,
I'm just
Darius.
I'm just like, wow, you nailed every scene. And this one, too. I think this was the second thing that I'd seen him in. It's like, oh, you really just, like, find, like, the people that you remember. He's always that person. Which I don't think he did in Sorry to Bother You as much.
Yeah, I think the cast really, like, sold this movie.
Yeah.
I think that the directing style just felt like, oh, let them do their thing.
I did actually watch a lot of stuff about him, and like it did seem like that. He was like, yeah, I kind of was expecting to have to do more to like get them into character, particularly with the kids. He talked about a bunch, and he was like, no, they were so good, like I could just let them go, and it was fine, you know?
Yeah. It's like, when is it more interesting to have somebody tell the story rather than show the story?
Yeah.
That's what makes the first scene so interesting, is he finishes telling the story after something crazy happens at the place and
Right.
acting like it's normal. I mean, that obviously sets the mood for the whole film, which I think is really smart.
Well, and I think I really liked
Screenplay.
the writing because it was like very realistic to how those problems would come up. Like I really liked with Lakeith's character shaving his head and then like asking if there were scars and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it was like a natural way for that to come up. I know that he had a short and then it got made into this feature.
That's been happening more and more. I mean, that's what happened with Whiplash too.
Yeah, but like I'm always just so curious. Like you can't get into like Sundance or Tribeca unless someone on your team is known. You know, even for We're All Alright, we talked about that we wanted to get it like be seen in like mental health facilities, and we were like, we don't even know like how to do that. You know?
Were you drawn to the cinematography in this movie, or was it more about the?
I mean, I think the camera work really fits the movie. I wouldn't say it's like something that stands out as like obviously super beautiful or like, you know, like what you kind of consider as like, oh, the cinematography.
Yeah.
And at times like the right choices were made, especially with that wrapping scene. I think it just worked so well. And it just like wasn't planned, and then it just happened. The DP just did it, and then he was like, okay, yeah, let's go with this, you know? Like they had storyboarded it and then went in a different direction. So, which is interesting because I feel like I'm very much a planner. So I like want to plan out everything I do. Like I literally every time I shoot a movie, I have a binder and it like has my storyboards and my shot list and like the script and my equipment list and my gear list and like everything that I need in one binder because I just need everything in one place. But sometimes you have to like go off of that, you know, and change your plan a little bit.
So that was a wrap in our forecast to look forward to. Please check out, especially if you are in Florida, we are going to be bringing Prologue to the Central Florida Film Festival in January. So go check out their website. The Central Florida Film Festival will be a live event. Our next and final episode of this season will be, of course, our Fresh Air Award, and we are going to be covering films from 1900 to 1909. Yes, that is a long time ago, and it is the decade with the very first feature films. So we will have a discussion with cinephiles from previous guests on the show and some other folks, including Shirley Bernard from Kumika the Treasure Hunter and Prologue. We'll be talking with Inga Moran, as well as Elizabeth Chatelaine and myself. I'll be giving a short history and then choosing the winner of the Fresh Air Award. So we would like to thank Brian Trahan for mixing this podcast that you hear, adding any additional music aside from the theme song by Kevin MacLeod. I also want to thank Laura Davi for helping out with the event. And that's all. So we'll talk to you next time.